just yeah, if you don't mind, just giving us another 1 or 2 minutes. Well, we're right there at 50, so I think we should do it. Let's start. Welcome to our 3 times a week science call. My name is Dr. Dieter, and I have board certifications in 2 fields. I'm a board certified pediatrician. I'm a board certified internist. Very passionate about metabolic health. And if you have been invited to this today, you've been invited by somebody who loves you to take a look at how all the chronic medical conditions that we have today are rooted in reversible metabolic dysfunction, all the chronic medical conditions. So I'm going to go ahead. So thank you guys for joining. I hope that this is going to be informative to you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then our we will start our broadcast or our talk. Okay. All right. So what are you able to see? Okay. Now, so
I think you have to be careful when you hit the table and it goes down.
okay, so I started by saying that I'm going to take you guys through how all the chronic medical conditions we have today are rooted in reversible metabolic dysfunction. It's important to understand first what metabolic dysfunction is. Metabolism is the way the body takes food energy and converts that food energy into cellular energy. We say you have metabolic dysfunction when the body is not able to convert that food energy into cellular energy, a deficiency in energy. And there is now reputable science out there that shows that all those chronic medical conditions, that cause metabolic dysfunction are rooted in 2 things: insulin resistance and microbiome dysfunction. Insulin resistance as well as microbiome dysfunction. And I want to take each of these things one by one to explain to us what those are. So let's talk about insulin. Insulin is a very, very important hormone. I call it, the most important hormone central in our metabolism. I said, hormone numero uno in terms of importante. Very, very important. Why is insulin a very important hormone? Because the job of insulin is to secure energy. What do I mean by that? What insulin does is this. The job of insulin is to mobilize. Let's see, I think I should probably use, let's do this. The job of insulin is to mobilize glucose into the cell to produce energy. This is what insulin does. Insulin causes glucose to be mobilized into the cell. This is a cell, so that ATP is produced. When we eat, right, all the food that we eat, when absorption occurs, all the food is converted into glucose. That glucose is released into the blood. When glucose is released into the blood, the pancreas produces insulin to mobilize that glucose out of the blood into the cell. When glucose gets into the cell, glucose goes through a very complex series of reactions in the electron transport chain. And the end result of that is the production of an energy molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Everything that we do in the body requires energy. Everything. And we pay for that energy with ATP. So that's why insulin is central, hormone numero uno in terms of importante, to our metabolism. Now, we say that you have insulin resistance when there is a breakdown in this process. If this process breaks down, we say you have insulin resistance. If insulin is unable to mobilize glucose into the cell so that ATP can be produced, we say you have insulin resistance. And I want to take you, to understand, 2 ways in which you develop insulin resistance, because we're going to talk about the problem and then talk about the solution. And for you to be able to understand what the solution is in the next, few slides, understanding how the problem came to be, then you could understand how the solution factors into it. So we develop insulin resistance by two-step process. The first is too much fat. You have too much fat. And the first process leads to the second. The second problem is too much insulin. Too much insulin. That's how we develop insulin resistance. Let's take the very first step, too much fat. We consume way too much calories than we are supposed to be consuming today. It is estimated that in today's generation, we consume 20% more calories than our ancestors did, a generation ago. 20% more calories. When we take in more calories than we're supposed to, the excess calories are always converted into fat. That fat, the body takes that fat and stuffs it into cells. So if this is what a normal cell is supposed to look like, when you consume too much calories and those calories are now converted into fat, the body now takes that fat and comes and stores it in this cell that is meant to be empty. It comes and lumps the fat up in here. Okay. And that is problematic because this cell was meant to take up glucose when insulin knocked on the door to say, take up glucose. You now have a cell that is filled with so much fat. You have glucose in the blood. You now have glucose in the blood, and insulin is now coming to this cell and telling this cell to take up glucose. And the cell is so fat laden, so full, it has no space to take up insulin. It says it to take up glucose. It says, hey, I got no room in the inn. I cannot take up any more glucose. Fat has occupied the space in the cell where glucose would have gone in to result in energy. And remember, anytime there is a breakdown in insulin mobilizing glucose into the cell for energy to be produced, we say you have insulin resistance. So that's the first way in which we develop insulin resistance, where a cell is fat laden. And guys, what this cell is doing, it's trying to protect itself from excess energy. If you have ever overeaten on Thanksgiving and you feel so stuffed and full, the last thing in your mind is to put another bite of food in your mouth. You are stuffed. This cell is stuffed. Stuffed. That cell. And if it's stuffed, the last thing it's thinking about is bringing in glucose. The cell is acting the same way you feel on Thanksgiving when you're stuffed. So that's the first way in which you develop insulin resistance. Now, I told you that first step leads to the second step, where you have too much insulin, right? Too much insulin. That's the second way in which you develop insulin resistance. Too much insulin. How does that happen? The stimulus for the production of glucose is insulin. When glucose is high, insulin will be produced high. When glucose is low, insulin production will be low. So you now have a cell that is pregnant with fat, fat laden, stuffed like it has eaten too much turkey on Thanksgiving or what have you. It's stuffed, and that cell cannot take up glucose from the blood. Glucose begins to pile in the blood. It's piling, accumulating in the blood because this cell is too full to take up any glucose. The glucose is just accumulating in the blood. Because the stimulus for the production of insulin is glucose, that high amount of glucose that has accumulated in the blood now stimulates the pancreas to produce more insulin. To produce more insulin. When the pancreas produces too more insulin, that's not a good thing. Have you ever heard of the saying, too much of a good thing is a bad thing? This is exactly what is going on here. Insulin, which is supposed to be hormone numero uno in terms of importante, has now flooded the system. It is too much. That too much of insulin causes havoc to the body, to the cells, begins to turn things off. It causes the cell to become numb to insulin. It causes the cell not to respect insulin anymore. It has seen insulin too much. It has lost its respect or its response for insulin. That is it. And another way to describe that is the effect that the too much insulin circulating in the cell. It's just like you're working in a factory, and that factory is a loud factory. The machinery that runs is loud. You go into work that day, it's loud. For the first 30 minutes, that sound is too loud for your ears. But after you've been in it for 30 minutes to an hour, what is loud in your ears, you now become tone deaf to the loudness. When you become tone deaf to the loudness, you don't have the same reaction to the loudness. When the cells become tone deaf to insulin, they don't have the same reaction to open their doors for insulin, for glucose to come in when insulin says let glucose in. So that's how the first step of insulin resistance results. That's how you have the problem. When I introduce the solution, you're gonna see how those two steps now play a role in the solution. That's insulin resistance. The next thing is this graph here, or this slide here, just shows you the implications of insulin resistance. Most of the chronic medical conditions that we face today are rooted in insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causes this metabolic dysfunction, the lack of energy, that now translates into all of these chronic diseases. And I want to just take one disease just quickly, the link between high blood pressure and insulin, the link between high blood pressure, this right here, actually, the link between high blood pressure and insulin resistance. When you have insulin resistance, the body doesn't have enough energy for the endothelial cells of the arteries to produce a special molecule called nitric oxide, which causes vasodilation of the blood vessels. When there's lack of energy and you cannot vasodilate the blood vessels because of the lack of energy, you have a stiff vessel, and you have high blood pressure. Insulin resistance is the key to all the chronic diseases, to most of the chronic diseases that we face today. Now, the other thing we talked about is the gut. Let's see. Why is this? There we go. Okay, the other thing we talked about in contributing to metabolic dysfunction is something we call dysbiosis. You may not know it, but in your gut are about 30 to 100 trillion micro bacteria, that live in the gut. Their job is they live in what we call a do for me, I do for you arrangement. They help us, we help them. The help they give us is that they perform all of these functions of the in the body, protect the body from pathogenic bacteria, help to regulate and train the immune system. You may not know it, but 70% of your immune system resides in the gut. The microbiome is meant to train the immune system. When the microbiome is unhealthy, there's an unhealthy training to the immune system, which comes with consequences. The microbiome also produces some very special, what we call short chain fatty acids. You could see that on the right, the right top corner of your screen. Those short chain fatty acids maintain the strength and the integrity of the gut to keep the gut healthy. When the microbiome is not healthy, we say you have dysbiosis. And to define what dysbiosis is a situation where the good bacteria get outnumbered by the bad bacteria. And the way dysbiosis happens is when there is not enough food for the bacteria in the gut. You see, the bacteria in the gut, and I'm touching a little bit on the solution here, the bacteria in the gut thrive on fiber. Okay, our foods are so processed these days that we do not consume the dietary amount of fiber that the NIH recommends that we consume. If you're a man, you're supposed to consume at least 38 grams of fiber a day. If you're a woman, you're supposed to consume at least 25 grams of fiber a day, because our foods are so processed, we're not taking in fiber, and the food for the microbiome is fiber. So when there is no food, every organism, every living thing whether it's a lion in the bush, in the jungle, or a bacteria in your gut, it requires nutrients to survive. So when you're not feeding the gut with fiber, and there's a deficiency of nutrients, there is a survival of the fetus. The bad proliferate, and kick out the good ones. And when you have that, we say you have dysbiosis. The bad thrive and the good, do not thrive. And that now causes you to have a slew of illnesses. This is a slide that shows the multiple medical conditions that people can face when you have dysbiosis, a disbalance in the gut's bacteria, when good is low and bad thrives. You may be surprised to see anxiety and depression on this list. And if you're surprised, I got news for you. 90%, 90% of serotonin, the neurotransmitter that is responsible for mood and happiness. Did you know that it is produced in the gut? 90%. So it is not uncommon for people who have, a poor gut health to have anxiety and depression. It's not uncommon. People who have irritable bowel syndrome, I'm yet to meet one person who has irritable bowel syndrome who doesn't have depression and anxiety. In fact, some doctors call irritable bowel syndrome depression of the gut. Just that connection, when you have a bad gut, you're going to have your chances of having anxiety and depression are high. Dysbiosis. So, again, those conditions, insulin resistance, and microbiome dysfunction cause or are responsible for the chronic medical conditions that we face today. But there is good news. And why is there good news? Because if you reverse the insulin resistance, if you reverse the dysbiosis, then the energy deficiency that resulted from the insulin resistance and the dysbiosis, goes away. When that goes away, you reverse the disease condition. It's so profound, but so simple. Reversal of the energy deficiency that was caused by insulin resistance and microbiome dysfunction, dysbiosis, causes reversal of the condition. Let me ask you guys this: if you're driving a car and you start running out of gas, what happens? Your car starts struttering, and then later it comes to a stop, right? When that car stops because it has run out of gas, is it because the engine has failed? Intrinsically, the engine has failed? No. The problem is that the source of energy for the engine, gas, is gone. Because the source of energy for the engine, gas, is gone, the engine stops working. The car stops working, not because the engine has failed. The car stops working. So it is with the body. When there is a deficiency of energy that comes as a result of insulin resistance and dysbiosis, it's like the gas tank that is now empty. It results in these diseases. If you went to a gas station, you bought a gallon of gas, walked back to your car at the road that stopped, and you pumped gas in that car. When you sit back in the driver's seat and turn on the ignition, the car does this, it roars back to life. Why? Because you did not have an intrinsic engine failure. You had a deficiency of energy. When you give the car back that energy, the car roars to life again. So it is with the body, guys. When you give the body back the energy that it was deficient because of metabolic dysfunction, your body roars back to life again. And so the solution here that I present to you guys is a nutraceutical product called the Feel Great System. A Feel Great System is a nutraceutical product made up of two things, a tea and a fiber. And they go to reverse the root of the problem. Remember, I spent some time talking about insulin resistance. I want to now explain to you how, both products help to reverse that. The Unimate, it has a special phytonutrient in it called chlorogenic acid. Chlorogenic acid reverses insulin resistance, and you may ask me how. Let's go back to how insulin resistance occurred. You know that insulin resistance occurred in a two-step process, when you had a cell that was filled with fat that then led to too much insulin. Well, we know what chlorogenic acid does. Chlorogenic acid as a phytonutrient helps in a very important metabolic process called lipolysis. Lipolysis is just a fancy term for fat burning. Okay. Remember that insulin resistance began when there was too much fat in the cell. The cell was plumped, fat laden, just as somebody was full on Thanksgiving, okay, and could not take up glucose. So that is fat. Lipolysis, unamate, promotes lipolysis because of the chlorogenic acid that is found in it. So this cell that is now filled with fat and was not able to take up glucose because it is filled with fat. When lipolysis occurs, this cell now can transform to looking like this. It still has some fat in it, but guys, it doesn't have as much fat as it did in this first stage. So this cell right here has much more room that it could accept glucose into the cell, right? As lipolysis continues to occur with the unamate, this cell now returns to being empty where there is no fat in it, and it can now take up all the glucose from the blood. Remember, when you're able to do so, you're reversing the breakdown, in that process. So that's how the unamate causes you to reverse the first step of insulin resistance by promoting lipolysis, freeing the fat-laden cell of its fat to create room for glucose to get into the cell. The second step, remember the first step resulted in the second step. The first step of insulin resistance, fat accumulation, resulted in too much insulin. And how is when the first step is then resolved, it causes the second step to be resolved very quickly. How is that? Remember that the stimulus for the production of insulin is glucose. So when you had a cell that was fat laden, you know, and could not take up glucose, you had that scenario where glucose was accumulating in the cell. Accumulating in the blood. You have glucose accumulating in the blood, and that glucose accumulation in the blood resulted in the pancreas producing too much insulin. Pancreas produced too much insulin, and that too much insulin, you know, desensitized the cell. It became numb to insulin. Now, lipolysis has now occurred, and this cell has now transformed into looking like this. It's no longer fat laden, and it can now take up the glucose from the blood. It begins to take up glucose from the blood, right? Begins to take up glucose from the blood into the cell. The glucose level in the blood drops. Remember, insulin's trigger is glucose. When glucose is high, insulin secretion will be high. When glucose is low, insulin secretion will be low. Because this cell is now free and no longer fat laden and has room to take up glucose, and glucose in the blood, the concentration of glucose in the blood now drops because glucose enters the cell. The pancreas now, drops the production of insulin to a lower level. And now a low amount of insulin now sensitizes the cell to respect insulin more. When insulin was running rampant and too much, it had no respect for it. But now that there is a lower amount of insulin being produced, it does. That's how the first step led to the second step. The other thing in the product is the fiber. I explained to you guys already that fiber is important in terms of the health of the microbiome. So I can just talk to you guys here quickly. Fiber helps to reverse dysbiosis by giving food to the microbiome. Did you guys know that fiber is a type of carbohydrate that is not digestible by man? it passes through the digestive tract intact. And you scratch your head and wonder why God, our maker, made something that we cannot digest. Why? Because of the do for me, I do for you relationship that our gut microbiome has. It is food to the microbiome. So when the microbiome is nourished and has that food, then there is balance. The bad cannot overtake the good. It's only when there is a scarcity of food, scarcity of fiber, that there is survival of the fetus. The bad kick out the good. So that's how the balance helps in reversing dysbiosis. The balance also plays the same role in lipolysis. It causes lipolysis in the same way as Unamate. But the other thing that the balance does, which is so cool and which is so important, is that it helps to reduce your glycemic index. And when I say reduce your glycemic index, I mean it causes your blood sugar not to go high. And once it does that, it by so doing reduces the amount of insulin your pancreas will produce. Let me demonstrate it to you guys like this. Let's say you and I went to a restaurant, to our favorite Italian restaurant, because we both felt like eating lasagna. Okay. You order your plate of lasagna. I order my plate of lasagna. We order exactly the same plate of lasagna. Right. I know a thing or two about the Unamate. I know a thing or two about the fiber product. So I know that, okay, this is going to help decrease my glycemic index. You have no clue. You just don't know what you don't know. So, you eat your lasagna, but you eat your lasagna without consuming the Unamate product, the fiber, without taking in the fiber. So without taking the balance, yeah, which is the fiber. What happens is your blood sugar is going to do this. Your blood sugar is gonna rise up, and spike, and then drop down, in a space of about 1 to 2 hours. And that spike in your blood sugar may be a blood sugar of 180. That's you, okay? That's a picture of you. Well, I know a thing or two about the balance. I know that the balance can decrease my glycemic profile, and I know that lasagna is a very rich in carbohydrate food, and it can spike my blood sugar, and I don't want it to spike my blood sugar. What I do is I consume the balance first, and then I take the same plate of lasagna. I eat exactly the same quantity that you have. This is what my blood sugar is going to do. And that level in my blood sugar may be a blood sugar of 90. So you and I have eaten the same plate of lasagna, consumed the same amount. Your blood sugar has gone up to 180, mine has gone up to 90. And the only thing we did different is that I consumed balance, which was rich in fiber, and you did not. What fiber does, why fiber causes these two different glycemic profiles is this. Fiber slows down the digestion, fiber slows down the transit of food through the colon. Okay, if food is supposed to move through the colon by this speed, fiber causes food to move through the colon by this speed. Why is that of consequence? Faster transit of food through the colon means faster absorption. Faster absorption means a fast release of glucose into the blood. So you have this profile. Slow transit of food through the colon means slower absorption. Slower absorption means a slow release of glucose into the blood. And that's why I have that profile. And because you have produced a blood sugar of 180, your pancreas is going to have to produce a commensurate higher amount of insulin to address this blood sugar of 180. Because I have produced a blood sugar of 90, my pancreas will produce a commensurate lower amount of insulin to deal with that blood sugar 180. Too much insulin is the same as causing the cell to be desensitized to insulin. Lesser insulin, like in my case, where the pancreas is going to produce a commensurate lower amount, makes my cells more sensitive to insulin. And so that's how fiber plays a big role in insulin resistance. And one last thing, you and I ate the same plate of lasagna. You paid $45 for yours. I paid $45 for mine. You know, your sad story is not over yet. You are going to gain more calories from the same plate of lasagna you ate, and I'll gain less calories. Why? Because you have produced more insulin. So, with this 180 blood sugar, your pancreas produced a commensurate higher amount of insulin, maybe say 20 units. For me, with that 90 blood sugar, my pancreas is going to produce a commensurate lower amount of insulin, say 5 units. Insulin is an anabolic hormone. It means it stores calories. So the more insulin you have circulating, the more calories and fat and what have you will store from that meal. The less insulin you have circulating, the less calories. So from this plate of lasagna, you may gain 950 calories. From that same plate of lasagna, same quantity you and I have eaten, I may only gain 350 calories. That is wild, wild, and wild. So that's the importance of fiber, in terms of our metabolic health, and that's how the feel great system, both the unamate and balance, play a role in reversing the core of the problem. So, friends, I have good news for you. If you're listening to this call and you suffer from any chronic medical condition, there is a 95% chance that chronic medical condition, maybe 99, I would say, to be even more accurate, that is rooted in metabolic dysfunction from insulin resistance and dysbiosis. And if you reverse the insulin resistance and dysbiosis, just like you put gas in that car, and the car that your car that ran out of gas on the road and it roared back to life again, your body will roar back to life again, and those diseases will go away. The feel great system gives you the opportunity to reclaim your health again. And that is good news. I'm going to turn over this to Amory now, and um, I'll let her moderate the rest of the way in terms of questions or what have you.
Yeah, so I think, can you hear my voice okay if I talk from Dr. Dieter's computer, or do I need to turn mine on? Dr. Kenny, yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So what I want to really go over is just to show you some evidence of the system that Dr. Dieter was just talking about and how well it works. And then the next thing is our colleague, Dr. Kenny, is going to go over the numbers on the business. If anyone wants to stay around and hear about our mission and our referral program, we're going to do that next. The first person that I want to show you is the doctor that you just heard from. And if you can imagine, this is what he looks like before he discovered intermittent fasting. Then this picture in the middle is 5 years of intermittent fasting and regular jogging. The pink jacket is 2.5 months using these two products, Unamate and Balance, to balance his gut. It's really incredible to see how fast it can go. This is my husband. This was just a couple months. This is how I discovered this. My husband started using it, stopped snoring. His arthritis in his knees went from a pain level 10 to a pain level 5, then down to a pain level 2 in a very short period of time. This is 3 years on the system. Some people say, well, if you're intermittent fasting, won't your muscles start to degrade? And I'm telling you, this guy has lifted weights since he was 17 years old. He's 54 now, and he has the most muscle mass he's ever had in his entire life while doing workouts in a fasted state. This is Kimberly. Kimberly is this is 60 days between these two pictures. If you can see the difference in inflammation just coming out of your body, it happens really, really quickly on this system. Our Dr. Kenny, who's about to talk to you, went from this hospital bed to discovering this system shortly after. These two pictures are about 32 days apart. If you can imagine, that just in 1 month, your body could change that much. Dr. Marla is 70 years old, and this was 3.5 months, got rid of long COVID, all of the blood work that was going wrong, but mostly it was fatigue, exhaustion. She now has energy to care for her adult disabled person. This is my friend Paul. He is in his 80s and reverse diabetes. He is now the same size that he was when he left the military 60 years ago. He thought it would never happen. And we have many stories. We're going to listen to a couple of individual stories. You can see when you lose weight through intermittent fasting, you don't end up with that hanging, saggy skin. You do not have to go get a $10,000 surgery to put your skin back together when you lose weight using this system and this protocol. Type 2 diabetes reversal. We see these kinds of situations all the time on a regular basis. You can see here all of the people, we know all these people. These are not strangers. These are people that we have had a chance to help specifically with this. So what I want to do is, what I would like to do, Dr. Kenny, is I'm going to have you talk a little bit about how this business I'm going to talk a little bit about how this business works, the mission that we're behind, and then we're going to open it up for questions galore at the end. So we're going to, if you want to stick around and we can have Dr. Dieter, we'll go into deep detail with Dr. Tiffany, Dr. Kenny, Dr. Dieter. We're going to go into a lot of detail on how the system works and answer all of your questions in just a moment. Dr. Kenny, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you walk us through how the mission works.
Yes, thank you so much. This has not only been physically life altering for me and my wife, who struggled with PCS for over 20 years, took us 7 years to have a little girl, all from exactly what Dr. Dieter has taught you, insulin resistance. Now, back in the 1960s, Dr. Dieter has crushed the science. I don't want to go into all that, but they started to remove fiber from your food, as he explained, and they put modified starch back in. Now, when this occurred, what happened is diabetes went up in the 70s sevenfold. Obesity went up sevenfold. The largest organ of detoxification in the body, the liver disease went up 400 times. Now, when that happens and the liver gets full, it's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Your triglycerides, LDL go up and your HDL goes down. Cholesterol and Alzheimer's and dementia all became a thing then. Now, this company figured out that when fiber had been removed, they said, well, let's just put the fiber back. So they created
And
this
just
fiber.
let him know.
Can
Hey,
you hear?
Dr. Kenny, we can't see the screen you're sharing.
Oh, you can't? I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Why? That makes
Be
no
able
sense. It
to.
says MacBook Air. Let
Try
me.
try unsharing and sharing again and
Yeah,
see if that works.
try to unshare and share.
And if not, I can show it on my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen. How about now?
We can't see it. Maybe you just use Amory's screen and just
Yes,
cue.
just Anne-Marie, that's fine. Put yours up.
Okay.
We're on screen
Yeah.
3.
Screen 3. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry about that. So, yeah, so basically what this company did, they figured out, let's just put the fiber back in the food. Now, when they did this, they created a patent. There is a 7 blend fiber matrix. And what this matrix does, it's been studied at the Cleveland Clinic, University of Sydney, and it's clinically proven to bring down triglycerides. It's clinically proven to bring down your LDL, your A1C blood sugar by 3%, whereas metformin does 1%, and it brings up your HDL and suppresses blood sugar spikes by 43%. Now, when this occurs, this is also found in the physician's desk reference. This is where doctors prescribe drugs from. Now, when I saw this, when Dr. Dieter saw this, when any physician sees this, all skepticism goes out the window. And so it is HSA and FSA also approved. That means that if people have health savings accounts, financial savings accounts, they can use those accounts to purchase this protocol. This works so well that we guarantee it for 90 days. And so you have a 90-day money back guarantee. Now, with that, it's in over 63 countries. This is a nutraceutical grade chlorogenic acid tea in a fiber matrix. The way this works is the simplest thing I've ever seen. I used to see hundreds of people a day in my clinic. You have to have something that is sustainable and it's got to be simple. So when you wake up in the morning, you make this chlorogenic acid tea. Everything is batch tested. That right there is third-party confirmation that has been checked for herbicides, pesticides, mold, mildew, bacteria, and carcinogens. And when they do this test, they're checking for all those things. So when you wake up, you sip on this tea in the bottle the company provides you. It tells you where to fill it up. You sip this every 10, 15 minutes. This acts like a natural metformin. It keeps your blood sugar low and keeps insulin low. And when insulin is low, the fat's got to go. Now, it also acts like a natural Ozempic. You've all heard that buzzword. This increases your natural GLP-1 by 70%, clinically proved at BYU University. So you sip this all morning long. You get to lunch. If you're hungry, what you're going to do is you're going to make lunch. You're going to have lunch. Then you're going to drink your second tea of the day. This is going to keep that food noise down. If this has helped you with food noise, if you're using this protocol and it's made fasting simple, feel free to put fasting simple in the chat. When you do this, food noise is over. I used to snack all the time. Now, when you get to your largest meal of the day, you're going to use this fiber matrix. And this fiber matrix is going to suppress your blood sugar spikes by 43%. These are plants. These are as effective as weight loss medications, diabetic medications, blood pressure, cholesterol, and they have zero side effects. They can be used with any drug, any medical condition. These are food. So that is the protocol. And because you skip breakfast, it actually pays for itself. So it's cost neutral. Now, when I saw this, and I saw it was in the physician's desk reference, when I saw it had a 90-day money back guarantee, I was like, how does this referral system work? And what it does, I was in Huntsville months back. I had this wonderful young lady driving me. She was cleaning homes, and it was a lot of work and stress on her. And she decided she wanted to drive Uber for a living because she made more money. And she had every sign of insulin resistance. As Dr. Dieter just shared with you, 93% of Americans have this. I believe in my heart it's higher, but that's the stats. And 8 out of 10 don't know they have it. She had every sign. She had belly fat and skin tags. And I just showed her a couple pictures of people that we help. And I said, I love this conversation, but as soon as you drop me off, you're never going to see me again. You're never going to make any money on me, right? I said, that was the same way in my clinic. She's like, okay. I said, what if you could provide a life-giving, uh, you know, system that literally people would order every single month, and every month that they ordered, you would receive $20 to $25 every single month. She's like, okay. I said, now what if you drop me off and I share this with 4 or 5 other people? Here's how this referral system works. If you see the value in this and you share this with your friend Bob, and Bob starts to take it, and Bob starts to have changes. Well, you're making $25 on Bob's order every month Bob orders. You're not tracking this. I'll show you that in a moment. And then Bob, he's walking around drinking this stuff, and his life's transforming, as you're going to see proof of so many. And his friend Sue notices, and she goes, my goodness, you just look and sound phenomenal. What are you doing? And I'm just drinking this tea. And before you know it, she's asking for his discount code that you get even as a customer. Your customers get this. And so she shares that discount code, which helps Sue get this at a discounted rate, direct from manufacturer with a 90-day money back guarantee. Bob's happy because he gets a $10 coupon every time Sue orders. All of a sudden, Sue starts sharing with Joe and Jill, and she gets $10 coupons on both of them. Bob only gets the coupon on her. But you, because you saw the vision of this mission, you get paid $25 on Bob, 25 on Sue, 25 on Joe and Jill, and this goes into perpetuity. So that's just one phase of this. Now, if we go to the next slide, You get paid down 12 levels, or you can. Now, we're just going to focus on 3 levels. You can make 5% to 10% off every one of those customers. And when I saw this, this blew my mind. This is how this works. So if you go to the next, if you see the vision of this, I opened a clinic back in 2003. I spent $200,000. $200,000 on a clinic. I spent $85,000 to get started. And once I hit that payoff point, I was splitting profits 50-50 with the person that lent me the money. Once I paid everything off, I still had payments to make every month. In this business opportunity, this mission, the company has you buy a 10 pack to unlock the franchising opportunity. You never have to make another investment on that side. And with that, you get 10 boxes for the price of 9. You're already in the black, and the word Black Friday actually comes from the first day of the year. Those companies are in the black. You guys know when that occurs. Now, what do you get? You can also, they've now offered financing. If you have any kind of Mac type of products, an iPhone, a tablet, whatever it may be, and you have access to a Safari web browser, you can open up Apple Pay and use Klarna, and you can use Affirm, and you can have 0% interest for up to 6 months. And then they have PayPal up to 6 months. Excuse me, same as cash. So this is how you can get started. Now, when you do this, our company provides you with a discount link, your own Unicity ID number. And when that person orders from you, they are connected to you. Everyone that they refer is connected to you until one of them join the business. And we'll explain this. You have fulfillment every day. I get to go and work with people that I know, love, and trust and build something wholesome and special by changing lives. It is the most spiritual thing I've ever been a part of. Many of you on here, if you've had life-altering experiences this, feel free to put that in the chat, how it's changed your life. You have a back office and an incredible customer service team. What do we provide you? We, as your team, are going to hold your hand. You're going to have a community. You're not on an island. We have people in their late 70s doing this, even using social media. Maybe you're like me and you really didn't want to reach out to people. You wanted them to see the evidence. You wanted them to see the proof of the information you were putting out. This will teach you how to do. Maybe you don't want to do social media. You don't have to. You can do this door by door if you choose, and we'll show you how to do that too. The product and business mentoring by multi-millionaires doing this. Also, you have weekly training calls that we perform. We have science calls with Dr. Dieter and other science calls. We have opportunity calls all the time. We are going to teach you how to invite the people that you love to these calls to see these opportunities. It might not be for everyone. That's completely fine. But we're going to share with you how to get it in front of them. And you never know when someone's life may be turned upside down. Maybe that person didn't save enough for retirement or college educations. Private training academies. We've also got social media master classes. It is absolutely incredible. Now, if you go to the next slide, this is the power of leverage. If you ever watch television, I'm sure you've seen Getty images. John Paul Getty, one of the wealthiest people of all time, stated, I'd rather have 1% of 1,000 people's efforts than 100% of my own. I now, through this company, have people working this business in Australia, Germany, Korea, Philippines, all around the world. And this is something that's happening, and it happens even if you don't want to build a network, it automatically happens. And when this takes place, do you know 10 people right now that are struggling with diabetes, that are struggling with weight issues, that are struggling with blood pressure and cholesterol, brain fog, fertility, just to name a few? If you do, you can do this business. And we're going to share with you how. Now, you might be saying, I've never done business or I've never done anything like this. I didn't know mathematics at one point, but someone had enough love for me to teach me. And when you get those 10 partners, those 10 customers, excuse me, you make $25 on each customer. That's $250 per month. That's paying for your product and putting roughly $80+ back in your pocket. You've got your own ATM machine. Now, I want you to think about 5 people that you would love to work with every single day of your life. Maybe you love their mentality. Maybe you love their energy. Maybe they're just your best friend. Maybe that person needs some help with retirement. Maybe they need some help with college education, or they just want to be able to take an extra vacation. When you share this opportunity with them, you're going to help them, with our help, get 10 customers. Now, because 5 of those people that you brought on in your team, those are like your children. Now you've got 10 customers per person. That's 50 customers utilizing this protocol that's guaranteed. And when they do this, you can earn 5% to 10% on their customers. They earn the lion's share. They did the work, but you're helping them create this network. When this happens, if you just do 5%, you're making an extra 250 a month or 500 per month. When those 5 partners bring on 5 partners, think of those like you have now 25 grandkids with 10 customers apiece. You're earning 2,000 a month. And when those 25 partners get 5 partners, now you've got a total of around $9,000 a month that you're earning residually. This continues to grow and expand. And when that happens, we have people making over $100,000 per month and a lot of people doing that. That is how big this need is. And honestly, we need your help. Anne-Marie, I'm done with the numbers. I'd love for some people to share their stories and testimonies, and I'll be here to answer any questions as well.
Just echo.
Would you like me to show Keith's? Sorry, guys. Keith, can you unmute? Are you locked in? Let me see if I can help with that.
There we go. There we go. Hi, guys. Always good seeing you. Um, before I started the protocol, I was literally on death's door. I was diagnosed diabetic type 2. That at I was diagnosed at 30. I'm 54 now. That picture was of a foot wound I got this year, or well, late in November of last year. And the middle of January of this year, I literally passed away. It was my daughter's gender reveal party. She was told half an hour after she found out I was having a grandson that she needed to get to the hospital. I wasn't going to make it. Um, and of course, she came, and with a couple friends of mine that are doctors, went through um, what needed to happen, what decisions had to be made. Um, but yeah, that was 6 weeks after I found the foot wound. After my niece had gotten married, I had just gotten home, found out, oh hey, look at this, and yeah, that's just how bad it can get. Um, I was in a pretty dark place. I'll admit, I didn't think I was going to be here 2 years from now. And in May, I stumbled across this protocol watching TikTok. And in saying that, I watched for about a month because I had tried everything. I've fought with my weight for since I was, God, 20 years old. and and after my grandson was born on June 3rd of this year, I made a conscious choice. I got to try something. I got to do something. Um, and I bought in to the system and I used it for about 3 weeks, maybe a month. And from day one, my energy level skyrocketed. I had so much energy, I wanted to get back in the gym to burn some of it off. Um, on day 2, I was on 108 units of insulin leading up for since age 30. I was on 108 units of insulin a day. I was off that in 2 days. Um, I've since seen my foot doctor. He wants to get in on it. My cardiologist is looking at it. My eye doctor's looking at it, and my pulmonologist, I just saw him a week ago, and he actually told me, he goes, "You've given me nothing to complain about." And I'm like, well, I guess I'll try better for next time, but I mean, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Um, and my depression is gone. I've never been happier. I get to work with Dr. Kenny, Dr. Tiffany, and Anne Marie on a daily basis. It's incredible. I wouldn't change a thing. I never thought in a million years that it would do this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you here. Is there a deck? Is there an echo?
Yeah.
I think you have to turn your. Wait, yours. Yeah, you're okay. No, we got it. Okay. Yeah, if you take yours off, we're good. Okay, sorry about that. We're sitting next to each other, so we're trying to figure this out. Yeah, so you can hear me? You hear me
Yes.
okay? Yes. Okay. So Dr. Tiffany, as you have had a chance to meet Keith and hear Keith's story, Dr. Tiffany is someone who was working also as a physician and wanted to have the opportunity to help people in a different way. You don't have to be a doctor, obviously, to do this business. I was an engineer. I am an engineer. I worked in industry for 27 years. And when my husband that you saw in that picture discovered this system, I wanted to share. I wanted to tell everyone that I knew about what I had seen. And in 9 months doing this, I replaced a $250,000 salary. And that's as a side hustle. I went to work 40 or 50 hours a week. And on the side, I was able to build this business and walk away from my job after 9 months. This was almost exactly 2 years ago. I've been only doing this business and had no corporate America job with my 1.8% raise per year. And the not keeping up with inflation. I've been doing this for 2 years. I've since then quadrupled my income. And what we're looking for here is we're looking for people who are interested in being on a mission to help people just like Keith. Help people just like Dr. Kenny was on his deathbed. I was not on a deathbed. Dr. Tiffany was not on a deathbed, but we had our own ailments. I struggled with weight and brain fog. I was taking afternoon naps, and now I can't remember napping. I forgot about what napping is. Dr. Tiffany, I would love to introduce you and just have you talk a little bit about why you would join our mission. And then we're going to open it up with Dr. Kenny, Dr. Dieter, and Dr. Tiffany to questions, or, Keith, if you have any specific questions for Keith, we can have Keith on as well. Dr. Tiffany, could you explain intermittent fasting? And I don't know if you need to go over the system again, but if you could, there's a question, explain intermittent fasting. I think that's a great segue to you as well.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, hello, everyone. I am a doctor that's been practicing for 20 years in family medicine. I actually had a private practice of which I ran, so a whole brick and mortar business, and telemedicine and urgent care. And then my last 3 years were in virtual primary care, taking care of people across 48 states. So that's when I got to see just how sick we are, how much we are struggling. So real quick about intermittent fasting after I just opened that up about me, right? So I look at this as if there's levels to intermittent fasting, because unfortunately, what I've come across is people can be a little afraid of that term, especially when you deal with insulin resistance, that after that 2 hours, some people are getting hangry. They're like, I can't go 2 hours, so this is definitely not for me. So what I've learned to show this to people is that when you're making these changes, having some smart goals are actually more effective in keeping them and being consistent, because when I was practicing across 48 states, that was the problem. The lack of consistency, the lack of sustainability, the lack of having something to help them be able to fast, to help them to turn off the food and carb noise. So I start with one, just not snacking between your meals. I call that level one of intermittent fasting. Is that entirely what intermittent fasting means? No, that's actually time-based eating. But the point is, it's a stepwise thing. You're working your fasting muscle. And then the next step I like to look at is if we can get you past that 16, 18 hours, which will happen if you miss either breakfast or dinner, because you're leveraging your sleep time. And then if you can do longer fast for when that's appropriate. So that's the simple way. And the great thing about this is that you get connected with someone who knows how to walk you through those steps to meet you where you are. But why did I even want to do this? Well, like I said, I had too many people on medications and they weren't looking better. And as I get to the other half of my life, I realized I don't want to look like them. Besides the fact that my life actually wasn't as where I wanted it to be, we always go through periods to where we may hit a rock bottom and you may be on your back and able to look up and see, okay, look, I want to get up. I want to do better. So I did. That was in my personal life. I actually went through a divorce and it had me to want to reevaluate why I'm doing anything. Yeah, I'm making a six-figure salary and what? Yeah, my kids are doing okay. And what? Do I feel fulfilled? As a woman married to another doctor, I put myself on back burner. Hence why I was running the brick and mortar practice. Why I changed my job 2 or 3 times so I can be there for the kids. So at this point, I said, I want to do something for me. I want to do something that's going to have an impact, but at the same time, empower me so I can empower other people. Because you can't empower people as an empty vessel. You've got to be somebody that's filled up with what you want to do and your joy to be able to impact others. And I saw this opportunity at allowing me to do that. I just got on social media talking about lifestyle medicine after I got board certified in lifestyle medicine to learn more about going after the root causes of conditions. And that's when I got connected with Anne-Marie. And it was with Anne-Marie showing me these products. And just like some of you, I thought, whatever, that is not real. But when I started taking it for myself, able to get off of my blood pressure medicine, able to see my waistline come in, looking snatched without having to put on a snatch device. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So that was great. And then I got to help, my family, my brother get off his insulin, his Trulicity. He literally was in the ICU for the second time because he never listened to me. And so actually helping him be able to get off of those medications and seeing the sugars come down, just like Dr. Dieter was talking about, we see with the studies, it was in a real person, my brother. It meant everything to me. So that's why I'm talking about this. That's why I jumped on this call, because who doesn't want this opportunity to share this information? But I also get to work with all these great people who understand that purpose and have that same desire.
I love that. I had chills the whole time that you were talking, goosebumps all over my arms. So that was really incredible. And thank you for sharing that. There's a question, and this is one that Dr. Tiffany is great at answering. How is a cardiac patient who cannot tolerate caffeine due to SVTs ensure max benefits of reversing type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, if the fiber alone effective, or does it have to be in combination? That's a really great question.
That is a wonderful question. And you get the max benefits by using the two products. And that's a question we all get. I know we all get this because everybody's scared, because I used to tell people avoid caffeine at all costs if you have this problem. But these products with the theobromine, it dilates the blood vessels. So it actually balances that out. So it's about dosing that. So you would actually increase the water so that way it's more dilute. It's more dilute. And I actually taper people up. So sometimes I start with half a pack and 40 ounces. And then I watch them. And we do that for 2 or 3 days. How is your heart rate? How are you feeling? They're usually able to go up to a full pack in 40 ounces. And then eventually I'm usually able to get them up to doing 2 packs in 40 ounces, which would be about what we all do, right? But the one thing we do have to attack is the fear. So that's the problem with a lot of this stuff is we immediately think, okay, my doctor always told me I can't do caffeine. That's there. And so to think that that doesn't come out when you start doing this stuff, it does. And so I have those real talks. And I have seen people with atrial fibrillation. I know they had it because she was my actual patient. So I saw her and she was actually mine when I was doing private practice. So when I put her on these products, I was hesitant in the beginning because I wanted to see how she did. But I watched her run through like a champ and have great results. So
nice.
that's what I usually do.
Dr.
Yeah.
Tiffany,
Yeah.
I had AFib and it's gone. I mean,
Yeah.
for 5 years.
When
Yes.
when Dr. Kinney started this protocol, he had AFib. Yeah, he had AFib as well. Another topic that I want to address, which is not asked here, but one of the things I see is people that are on the type 2 diabetes blood sugar roller coaster. And one way we get off that is when your blood sugar drops between 60 and 80, you've been instructed by your doctor to like, quick, go drink orange juice. Go drink orange juice, right? And so what we want to reteach you is if you are not symptomatic, this not if you are symptomatic, but if you are not symptomatic between 60 and 80, just move on, right? If you take a drink, if you take literally a sip of Unimate, you're gonna feel better and you're gonna feel fine, you're gonna be fine. But let's say that you have, in the same way, you have this dialogue going through your head. Oh my gosh, I'm at 60, I'm at 60 to 80. These are some symptoms that you would look for. Shaking or trembling, you'd have a faster heart rate, extreme hunger. If you begin to sweat, you have confusion, difficulty, or dizziness. Those are what we call the symptoms that you would want to treat. First, try Unimate. If you still feel symptomatic, you want to go with like 15 grams of raisins. Do not drink orange juice. Do not have a soda. Do not eat a piece of white bread. You can have about 2 tablespoons of raisins, and that has enough fiber in it that it will be like a natural fiber, and you'll start getting off of that roller coaster. Because what we see is people get to 70, they feel funky, they have a piece of white toast or orange juice, their blood sugar spikes up to 320, then they need more medication, and they're off. This call, if you're a type 2 diabetic, this call is all about getting you off the ride. And Keith showed you proof. You got off the ride in 2 days. So if you've been on the system and you're still not off the ride, it's because you're not doing the system correctly. And we want to coach you through how to do that. And the number one thing I see is that the 2 things I see. One is that people are still on the roller coaster. They're chasing those lows that are not a big deal. And the second thing they're doing is they're breaking their fast by adding supplements or medications in the morning. Dr. Kenny, can you talk a little bit about the protocol and what you want to do to make sure that you're not accidentally breaking your fast?
Yeah, so when I started, I had cardiac AFib, and I also was on blood thinners and blood pressure meds. And so most medications, and Dr. Tiffany, Dr. Dieter, feel free to chime in if I'm incorrect, say take them 30 minutes before you eat. So the tea, and think about this logically. Any diabetics on here usually wake up maybe 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work during the week, right? Well, you're tired on the weekend. You sleep till maybe 8 or 9 o'clock. Did anybody on here wake up at 6 a.m. to eat and then go back to bed? No. So you're fasting through that. Does that make sense? This tea, when you wake up, just sip the tea first thing. I didn't eat till late afternoon, maybe even evening for the first month. I mean, it felt like to me, honestly. And I just sipped the tea. And then when I ate, I took my medications then because medications and supplements will break the fast. Now, if you're in a position where you're like, I have to take this in the morning, then I would recommend buying an extra box of the fiber. The fiber will suppress that blood sugar spike when you're on those medications, when you're on those supplements. And that way you can still take them. It'll keep your blood sugar low, insulin low, and you'll be able to fast the whole entire time through. But that's what I did. That's what I coach people through. Now, obviously, if you're, working with your medical doctor and there's some kind of complication, then absolutely. This is food. Just get the extra fiber is what I would tell you to do. Okay, I do this all the time with people, and they thank you because before you know it, their blood work's so different. Their doctor's taking them off their meds.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
what you're looking for? Anything else?
Yeah, that's amazing. So Dr. Dieter, tell me about the people that you're coaching. What are some of the key things that you've noticed that you want to share proactively on this call?
Are you asking about, what are some of the things that have happened to my people, or what specific coaching am I giving to people? What was your
have you
question?
noticed as people start on the system, some
Okay.
of the key points that you suggest as they get started? And just like, Dr. Tiffany shared, some people need their hands held a little bit right
Okay.
in those
Yeah,
first
yeah,
couple
yeah.
of days.
Yeah.
What are some of the key considerations that you've noticed as you've coached some of those people through the day?
Sure. Thank you. I understand the question now. Um, I, uh, I, I talk about the caffeine sensitivity, and I use the same approach that Dr. Tiffany has used, where I warn them about. I ask them, "Do you have a caffeine?" the question of what side effects should I worry about? That's one question I get. Oh, can I take this? Can I still drink alcohol? By the way, yes, you can have alcohol. There's no contraindication to having alcohol with this because this is food. So that question comes up very commonly. But I put it in the back of my head when I'm meeting somebody, when somebody is starting this new, to tell them, to ask them about caffeine sensitivity, and then to go cautiously with the caffeine sensitivity. The other thing that I do, because I have experienced this um, with a couple of patients. I have my father on it, and my father experienced this. He had a transient elevation in his blood pressure. So for some people will have that. So when people ask me about what are some of the things that I should worry about, side effect wise, I talk about three things. Caffeine sensitivity. If you're sensitive to caffeine, we're gonna do a wean. We're gonna do a slow wean up, just like Dr. Tiffany explained. The second thing, I warn them, because it's easier when you warn somebody about something for them to be cautious than for them to just find out and like, oh, you lied to me, or oh, this caused me to have this adverse effect that I didn't know. So I have now made it a point to tell most of the patients that I get on this, that in a very small subset of people, very small subset, and we don't know who that subset will be. There is actually a transient elevation in your blood pressure, due to the caffeine, in the Unimate. And for somebody who doesn't know that, that may scare them. My dad is a physician just like myself, and I'd warned him about that before. So I was able to, reassure him easily because he had that warning. So I like telling people that you may see that transient elevation, but that transient elevation in your in it's only in a small subset. It may not happen to you at all. If it does, it usually goes away. A lot of people, it resolves within 48 to 72 hours. Very quick. You'll be amazed to see how quickly the body adapts, to caffeine, way more than you think. And so that disappears. I give them that reassurance. And then the last thing I tell them is about fiber. I come across a lot of patients who say, my doctors told me not to take fiber, or fiber is going to constipate me, and this and that, or what have you. And so I try to speak to that, to address that, to explain the importance of fiber. And then I do tell them, yes, you may have constipation when you start on the fiber, but it's also transient. And the reason why it's transient is because our foods are so over processed. We are consuming less than 50% of the required dietary amount. So when you start taking in this fiber product, your colon is in shock. Like, whoa, how much fiber are you loading with me up with now? And because of that, you have constipation, for about the first 1 to 2 weeks. Most people fall in that time frame of 1 to 2 weeks. That's because the colon is acclimatizing to what it was supposed to be on, that it has not been on for years, because you're being substandard, giving yourself, taking in less amount of fiber than you do. When that period of acclimatization goes away, the colon gets used to, those symptoms go away. And on the other side of it are benefits and benefits and benefits.
Like
So
never seen
if
before,
you've
right?
never seen before.
Life is completely different.
Yeah, so
through the other side.
so if somebody told me, you're going to have constipation for 1 to 2 weeks, but after that constipation for 1 to 2 weeks, you have these benefits for the rest of your life, I'm going to brave that constipation for one to. So I try to tell patients that, and I tell them my own story. I had constipation for 12 days. By the 13th day, it was gone, and I now reap those benefits. So those three things, I'm really, I bring that up to them, because sometimes just having the warning reassures them. And I cannot count how many patients I've told them fiber is good for you, irrespective of what your doctor has told you or is going to constipate you. It is good for you.
And just increase your water intake as you go. Dr. Kenny, you are on mute. Let me have you on mute. And then Dr. Tiffany, I want to hand it over to you. And there's also, Dr. Tiffany, there's a question in the comments I was hoping you could address too about blood pressure on Unimate. Go ahead, Dr. Tiffany.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to get to, because Dr. Dita did make a point about that transient time to where the blood pressure goes up. Some of that is caffeine, but some of that is also your insulin level coming down. So insulin makes us hold on to water, hold on to fluid. So as you are adjusting, trying to become more insulin sensitive, you're going to be increasing your blood volume as that fluid is coming out of those cells. So that is something to keep in mind. And the way to actually combat that, it sounds counterintuitive, is to actually drink more water. And sometimes even add a little bit of the salt. Most of the times, actually, that's it, Kenny, is that we're missing that. So again, these are times, that's why this is so important. That's why you don't buy this over a counter. You buy this with someone to actually talk these things through to be able to help you work them out.
Yeah.
Thank
And,
you.
I think that example too, like Donna, if you've been using this system for more than a month and your blood pressure is still going like that, you want to address your salt intake. It's still off. So your electrolyte intake is off and you're probably not drinking a sufficient amount of water. That should be resolved by now. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Tan.
So it's the type of salt too, right? So Baja salt, Celtic salt, Himalayan. Another thing that people do, and as Dr. Tiffany alluded to, when people are fasting and their body is not changing, they're still insulin resistant. So insulin makes you store fat, grow tissue, suppresses the immune system when it's in abundance, and it suppresses the reproductive system, but it makes you hold on to your salt, like Dr. Tiffany was saying. That's why you retain water. And so if you put the salt back in, then you'll be able to drop insulin levels. Your blood pressure will start to normalize down. Another thing that people do is they'll use those water things to flavor their water. And they allow to, if something's under 5 calories, list that as 0 calorie. So these people be pouring that crap in their water, which is why we tell you to use salt because we know what's in it. And they'll be just pouring it in, not measuring their serving sizes, and they're breaking their fast. No different they're doing medications and no different. So when this stuff, when say people say this doesn't work, I've got over 2,000 people on this. It works. The only time it doesn't work is if someone
Don't
just
take it well.
yes, and they're not doing it. They just don't know, right? So reach out to who brought you in. They will help you. Don't make decisions on what you know. Trust on them, lean on them, ask them. If they don't know, we'll find out. We have access to Ben Bickman. I mean, we have access to people that we can truly help you with. So, and I'm not saying that we, Tiffany, Dr. Dieter, myself, Emery, have all the answers because we don't.
No, we don't.
But we can figure that out for you.
We can help you get all those resources that you need in order to get to a decision, move forward. Any other questions? I saw there was some hands up earlier. If you would like to put your question in the comment, or if you'd like to be unmuted, you can make a comment and we can unmute you so you can ask your question. There was one person earlier that had a question. Hopefully it was answered. Yeah, one of the questions for Keith was like, hey, do you still have that foot wound? And he says like, nope, he is totally healed. And he is off of how many left? He's off all of his insulin, all of his diabetes meds, and still sporadically using one medication for blood pressure. Sensational.
Well, and John Frost is another one that had a friggin' foot ulcer the size of the Grand Canyon, right? It was home. So we see these things all the time.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it looks like we have, I'm not seeing any new questions come in. Okay. Could you please share the minutes from like a recording of the meeting? Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah. The person who invited you will get you the recording of this. Love it. Well, as you can see, there at one point there was 117 people here on a Sunday evening. If that doesn't show you the demand for this conversation, we are just barely touching the surface of all the people that are looking for this. Everyone is about to get on Ozempic. Ozempic, there's another solution that is all natural with no side effects that doesn't stop working after 8 to 18 months. Oh yeah, please ask my question. Please answer your question, Marine. Yeah, can you retype your question down here? I'm not sure where it is. Sorry. Or do you want me to take you off mute?
Her question was, do we have to take it forever?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay.
Oh, yeah, saw that.
Yeah.
Dr. Tiffany, do you want to take a stab at that?
You know what? Yes. You know what? We don't go to the gym and expect to keep our muscles built after we stop going, so to speak. But I will say this. You know, if you are using this as a tool to add to your lifestyle changes and you're really making them, you may go through a period to where you may not feel like you need the products. But what I do see happening is I do see people who take a break and they're like, I got to have that fiber back because we cannot replace what we aren't able to get in our environment. Unless you are growing all your fruits and vegetables in your backyard. Oh no, can't even do that. You got to be growing them on like a tower because you can't even deal with the soil, people. And you got to have all the different colors underneath the rainbow. So the reality is, most of us are lifers. We have understood the benefit that once we do reach our goals, it's preventative. But do you have to? No, you can see how long you can stay without them. But I tell you one thing, most people I know come right on back.
You can say what
I like what Beverly said. It's a very interesting take.
Yeah.
Beverly said people are okay with taking medications forever.
You don't think twice. If your doctor tells you, hey,
Yeah,
blood
yeah,
pressure medication
yeah.
for the rest of your life, you're like, okay,
Right.
that's my life sentence. Thank you. We're saying like, hey, these results are quite incredible to be on a yerba mate tea concentrate and fiber. You actually get the fiber in your body, and maybe you want to do that for the rest of your life because it feels amazing and you don't ever get tired of it. You never get tired of it. I love that. So the product had so much constipation, was in pain, the point where, so the patients had a friend who started on it, had so much constipation, right? Which is that sign of like severe gut dysbiosis, which is what Dr. Dieter was talking about at the beginning of this meeting. So there's a lot of gut repair that is needed there. Can someone speak to this, please? Has this happened to anyone else?
I mean, I think Dieter did a great job. So yes, go ahead, Dieter.
Yes, patients, as Amri alluded to, I think that depends on how sick the gut is already. The gut is so sick, the gut has not seen fiber to the degree that it needs to see fiber. It introduces it. It has so much catch-up time to do to acclimatize. So yes, that we see constipation. It's one, and that's why I warn patients that, hey, you will get constipation. And one of the things that you can do to address that, number one, is just as you do a tapered dose of the Unimate, you can do a tapered dose of the fiber. And some people during that time, I think depending on how bad your constipation is, Anne-Marie, I think you told me about this, and this helped my father. Doing the aloe vera capsules during the period that you're introducing fiber into your system, that helps to weaken the punch of the constipation and ease things. But constipation is the number one common transient side effect of introducing fiber to a gut that has been devoid of fiber. The number one side effect. So yes, we've seen that very commonly.
Yeah, so someone who invited you can also tell you about the aloe vera capsules that the same manufacturer uses if they're struggling with that, or if they know that they have severe gut dysbiosis in advance, they can get some of those as they get started. Really go slowly with the fiber.
Yeah.
And Keith says, hey, it took 40 years to get this way. It's gonna take a bit to fix you. This isn't a necessarily microwave solution, although it is pretty close to a microwave solution. It's, we're taking that crock pot and moving it up. But if it's taken you 20, 30, 40 years to eat your way into metabolic disease, it's going to take you some time to eat your way out.
Think about how messed up your system is if it can't ingest food. Like really, your medications never talk about health and well-being on the bottle, do they, Dr. Tiffany, Dr. Dieter? They talk about effects and symptoms.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let that ruminate in your minds. And what's I find fascinating, we are so programmed to take medication that people will question an all-natural product still listed in the same book that they recommend drugs from.
Yeah, indoctrination. It's indoctrination by, the healthcare system to be dependent on
Yes.
medications. And guys, to go back to the question, about should I take this forever? Look at this as this is food. And should you eat food forever? That's the question you should ask. So if you need food forever, then you have the answer to this. It is food that has more than nutritional value. It has health benefits. So why not?
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thanks. I'm not seeing any additional questions come in. We would love if you would like to try. There's two things that you can take from watching this meeting. You can try the system. It has a 90-day money back guarantee, so you have no risk if it's not for you. The person who invited you here will make sure that you know how to get your money back. The second thing is to join our mission. There are other people. You must know 10 people who are struggling with metabolic issues that you could help to save their lives. I'm looking at John Taylor's picture right now where he's showing what his waistline used to be. If you see him in the chat, that's a good one. Some of the people are saying, some of the people say, like, my dad dropped 228 pounds to 184 pounds in 2 months. When people drop that fast, doctors, one of the first things they say to me is, hey, isn't that too fast to lose weight? Hey, that's too fast to lose weight. Can we talk about that real quick? That's a common comment that I hear.
What I will say, what I have realized, I think I need to look at that. They say the average amount of weight you should lose. What's that number? 84, 228. What's that?
30 plus 7, that's 70 pounds.
28 plus 16.
Say that again. 70 pounds? Is that 70?
20, no, 20 and 20, 20 and 20, so for like 40 pounds, closer to 40 pounds.
Closer to,
You're doing this eating food versus
yeah,
you're not starving your body.
yeah, yeah.
Like, medication wise, it's a different ball. It's not the same. You have to compare apples to apples.
44
Yeah,
pounds.
yeah.
Well, yeah, the thing is, and that's what Yvette's put in here, fluid
Yeah.
loss.
Fluid
We
and
just said
edema.
that. The
That's so
insulin's
true.
coming down, the
Yeah.
fluid's going to lose. So a lot of that is fluid. So we
Yeah,
aren't talking about you losing a whole bunch of fat in that time period.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that's why that would be
That's a
concerning. But the
good,
reality is
yeah, that's
fluid and
that's a good
inflammation.
point.
That's what we're
That's
seeing.
Yeah.
very good point.
And that is saying, like, so much of that was anemia, right? Like his
Edema fluid, yeah.
his edema fluid, so and his body finally let it go without medication, right? Let it go without a bunch of new meds. Mhm.
Yeah. I actually work for a weight loss clinic, or have done it a period of times, in my search for trying to find something to be home with the kids. I've done that a period of times. And so with weight loss medications, that first month, you do see that. And that's more of the fluid loss.
Yeah, and then there's a question of macular degeneration.
Keith had
We look at-
changes in his retina. I know that, right, Keith?
Yeah, we could pull Keith back on. Keith, you should have access if you're able to come back on and talk about macular degeneration from.
He did.
Yeah. Give me 2 seconds.
We have others on. Is anyone else? This is actually a common theme that we've seen.
I was actually,
Keith, you're
I
not
was-
just standing by waiting for us to keep calling on you all the time.
no, that's quite all right. I was actually getting injections in my eyes, both of them, every other month for a couple of years, actually. And I went to see my eye doctor about 2 weeks ago now, and they did the scan of the back of the eye, and it used to look like a rock face of a mountain. And the last scan I had was smooth as glass. He said they've never looked better. They haven't looked this good in over 4 years. So,
Things we can do.
and my eyesight's actually improved.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome to see that we've done that. Yeah, that is very cool. So excited to hear that. It sounds like what we're looking for is macular degeneration, all of the side effects from type 2 diabetes, people are seeing relief from, and maybe you're thinking, I don't have type 2 diabetes. This isn't for me. It's 93% of America. If that helps give you a feel, you might be that 7%. I haven't met anyone yet that's in that 7%. I haven't. If you have, bring them to the call. We'd love to interview them and find out what
They're,
they know.
they're unicorns. We want to study them.
We want to study them. We want to find out who you are and what you've been doing. We want to follow you around for a month and see how you live. So we haven't met these people yet. The 7% that are allegedly out there that don't have metabolic disease. I'm going to wrap this up. If there are, John Taylor said, yeah, John Taylor had also the same situation. I mean, John, if you're interested in telling us a little bit more about your story, and then we're going to wrap up, I promise. Okay, John, you should be off. Sorry, I unmuted you, and then we're playing the mute button. One more time.
Brother, one more time. Lower.
There you go.
Nope.
It's awesome. Well, you can see John in the background. I mean, that's a good start. He's ready for all things.
Can you hear me? Keep muting myself. But yeah, I've been maybe 6 months or so. I don't know. I've lost track of time. But constantly, I keep just feeling better and better and better. I have been experiencing things that I don't think I experienced in my whole lifetime of just feeling well, maneuverability.
So tell us about your eyes. Yeah, tell us about eyes. Sorry, there's echo.
Tell us about your eyes, John. I mean, you had triple-digit blood pressure.
Yeah, I had you have your top measure and the bottom measure. My bottom measure was always at 110, 115. I mean, it was bad. And I went from a 42 waist to a 32 waist. And that was incredible. It was back to my military. I never thought I'd get there, but I couldn't bend down. The aches and pains were just out of this planet. But like everything you guys say, I started seeing Dr. Kenny. I just, was just playing around on TikTok, and I saw him, and he says, "Do you have this? Do you struggle with this?" And I says, are you talking to me?" And I didn't. It just, it just hit me. I didn't even have to think about it because everything he was saying, I was feeling, and I never heard it from anywhere. I had seen a doctor for 30 years. He kept giving me meds. Sometimes he gave me a prescription that made me cough. It was for high blood pressure. And I was coughing like for months. And I said, well, how did it? So I came back, oh, sometimes you have an allergic reaction. Some people have an allergic reaction. But there was never light at the end of the tunnel. There was never, I can see this now after I'm out of the hole. But while I was in there, it's just something that people for myself, I just accepted that's the way it was. This is going to be like this forever. It's just going to get worse. And through this protocol, or through just seeing this team, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. And a lot of people need to find out about this. I just had, talking about, I had a guy with an ulcer. He's gone. He was diabetic. His mom was diabetic. His sister was diabetic. When I was doing transportation, helping out some people, I carried them to dialysis. Just recently, I went to a bowling alley tournament with one of my friends, and I had two guys there that had worked with me. So being at that unit at the bowling alley, I say, "Hey, how's so-and-so doing? How's his brother?" His brother's name was Beto. He says, "Beto is gone. He's dead." It's like, God, there's so many people out there waiting for this and have lost hope. And there's nobody there, but there's a team. It's all of you guys.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you.
I'm honored to be part of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Well, guys, this has changed my life, and we need all the help we can get. And I'm reminded of this beautiful younger lady. She's at the end of her rope. She's lost hope. She's ready to go to the next place. I almost met that maker last year, and I realized that when it's not your time, it's not your time. And right now, it's not my time and it's not your time, but it is someone else's time. And you might be the difference in that. And this little old lady was talking to her pastor, and she said to him, I'm ready to go. And he comes over, and she's planned out everything. She's planned out the hymns, the everything she's going to do. And he's like trying to talk her out of this, right? Like John, she just lost hope. And he says to her, she says to this man, she says, Look, I want you to bury me with my Bible in my right hand. And if it were me, you'd be putting these in my left hand. And he's like, well, why the Bible, right? And well, everybody's going to know that, but when they see these, they're going to ask, what the heck is that bottle you're carrying around? And you're going to tell them that, well, when we were in the basement, when we got to eat, once they get rid of the food and we're done, you're just talking and rapping with each other and enjoying each other's time, and they bring you out a spoon. You're kind of like, oh man, you know what I mean? Like, really, that's what's coming. It's going to be something like Jello. Like, what is that? But when they bring out the fork, you can look at them and tell them that this is pie, right? This is peach cobbler, that the best is yet to come. Guys, these two little packets have not only changed my life, but they've helped me change tens of thousands already. And I've been shut down on platforms for telling the truth. And you can't stop light. And he's light. And we need you and we need your help. And if you're tired of being in this corporate crap that you're in and you don't have a way out and you can't see it, grab a hold of the person that brought you to this call, because they are going to show you the way. They're going to hold your hand and they're going to help you help as many people as you possibly can, because your story is not for you. It's for the person that passes by. The fruit's not for the tree, it's for the person that walks by. Use your testimony, use your fruit, and serve the masses. For Christ said, the greatest amongst you is the servant of all. Each one of you can extend your arm further than the next, right? As Dr. Dieter always says. And we need your help to do so. Thank you so much for those that said yes. Emery, thank you for bringing me to this.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Thanks.
you. You all have a good night, and thank you all for joining us today.